we'll get into this actually in racing as well, because we're going to preview the Morton Games, the athletics, with the Irish Olympian Louise Shanahan, who's on the line with us now. Louise, good morning, how are things?
Good morning, how are you?
Keeping well, thanks. Keeping well. Is that something in terms of the start line of a race? Are there conversations like you have with your opponents?
So we have a call room before, so we often spend kind of 20 minutes often sitting in silence with our competitors, and I just find that so nerve-wracking. So I'm the kind of athlete to just talk to anyone irrespective of whether they want to talk, so I've been told to shut up on the start line before, but yeah, no, I'm definitely a talker, but maybe not my best quality, but it's a good way of dealing with the nerves, even if my competitors don't really like it.
Are you doing it to get into their heads, or are you just doing it because you're friendly?
I think it's quite boring. You know, the 20 minutes before a race, you're quite nervous. Everyone's just sitting there in silence, putting their shoes on. I find that quite boring, so I guess I do it to fill the time. I think it annoys quite a few of my competitors. I have been told to be quiet in no uncertain terms. So.
Really? Can you name and shame?
I wouldn't do that, but the athletes themselves, they know. I think I maybe when I was 18, 19, I started to take it to another level where I actually used to talk during the races. But often, we'd have heats, so we'd have you'd know what kind of time you need to run to qualify for the final. And I was known for saying, yeah, that's great, guys, we're on pace, or we need to pick it up a little. I'm definitely a talker. Maybe not my best quality.
Because I've heard of jockeys.
That's amazing.
I've heard of jockeys chatting during like Grand National and big races, but like, geez, Louise, to be chatting during a race where you presumably have to be keeping your breath and keeping your breathing on point, that must be difficult. But clearly, you don't find it difficult.
I think it depends, because if you're trying to qualify with a heat, you're trying to get to the final expending the least amount of energy possible. Yeah. So, a few words telling people that we're running quite quickly and we can slow down is probably less energy than to keep running at the pace they're running. I think it's worth it. It probably also throws off my competitors, if they're sprinting flat out to try to make a final and I turn around to them and say, no need, we can slow down. It probably throws them off a little bit. And you'd be surprised, I think, how people listen, if that makes sense. I remember a heat for an Irish InterVarsity Championships a few years ago, and we were running down the home straight and I thought we'd qualified. So I quite literally told the people around me that, we don't need to sprint, slow down. And the entire race slowed down. I was amazed. I think it's one of those situations where you're not expecting someone to talk. So then when they do, you kind of pay attention. I have been told, though, to stop speaking during races. So I think I've kind of weaned that out now of my race day prep.
And what about your coaches? Do they like that you do this? Like, I'm sure that can be an advantage at times, that you're telling competitors, we're doing well here. Good pace, girls. Like, you're so encouraging.
I think my coaches think it's a bit cheeky, and that I maybe should do it a little less and focusing on racing. So I was told to get the talking during racing out of my my race day, but the talking on the start line in the call room, that's very much still there.
Your own story, Louise, like you're so for people unaware, Irish 800 metre record holder, Olympian in 2020. Well, it actually took place, of course, in 2021. What was that experience like? Because I mean, for anyone to reach an Olympic Games in their chosen discipline, I know a lot of the athletes get the 5 Olympic rings tattooed. I don't know if you went that far, but I'm sure it was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, the Tokyo Olympics was a bit weird because we were in the middle of COVID. And I always tease my parents, that they say they're supportive parents, but then I go and qualify for the Olympics and they don't even bother to show up. It was weird. We had no spectators. It was huge stadiums that were absolutely empty. It was really cool. And I guess from when I was maybe 9 years old, I decided I wanted to qualify for the Olympics. So to achieve that dream is, incredible. But for me, I really, really want to qualify for Paris to have kind of the full Olympic experience, as much for kind of my friends, my coaches, my parents, my family, as for me. An Olympic Games is something incredibly special, and there's so many countries, so many athletes in close proximity, and to walk around the village where you've got skyrise apartments, everyone's got their flags out the balcony, there's so much colour, there's so much noise. Some people are getting up and racing at 5 a.m, other races aren't until 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, so the village is always buzzing. So I really, really enjoyed the village in the Tokyo Olympics, and I'm really excited, hopefully, to see what it's like in Paris.
am I right in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you're one of these annoying people that's just unbelievably good at everything. So not only are you an Olympian, but doing a PhD in Cambridge in quantum biophysics?
Yeah, that's correct. So my PhD, the physics, the PhD is correct rather than being good at everything. I can tell you, I very much cannot sing. Not my strong point. But my PhD is in quantum biophysics. So I take really, really small diamonds and I put them inside cancer cells and I use it to measure temperature and viscosity. So it's like quantum sensing. So I really enjoy it. It tends to be a bit of a conversation ender. You know, people say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing a PhD in quantum physics," and they kind of go, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I really enjoy it, and I think it works really well to kind of have it alongside the running. There's only so many hours a day that you can train for, so it's nice to have a distraction in between.
Yeah, what is that balance like? Because I'm sure PhD, that must be really full on, and obviously you're an unbelievable athlete as well. So how do you balance it all?
I think it's a lot of kind of running from one place to the other, and I think I'm quite organised in terms of I know how much training I need to do in the day, I know how long that's going to take, and then I know what I kind of need to get done before I go training. So I find that it worked really well, particularly coming up through school. You know, I'd know that I'd be going to the track at say 8 o'clock at night, and that I'd have to have my homework done before I left. So I think it really does get you to be good at time management and really on it, packing things the night before. But yeah, I think it's not so bad in terms of I'd much rather be doing a PhD than a full-time job, because if I want to go train at 4 o'clock in the day now, I can, and I can just go training and then have a shower and head back to the lab and work for the evening. Whereas if you're in a job, they often expect you to be there kind of from 9 to 5. You can't disappear off in the middle of the day for training, and they probably don't appreciate it if you leave the country to go race. So yeah, I think the PhD is much more manageable than a job, so I'm very grateful to have it.
You're obviously a data analysis person. If you're studying a PhD in quantum physics, like I read somewhere, Louise, that you were using spreadsheets in order to qualify for the Olympics. So you're inputting data and trying to gather the points, I guess, you need for rankings in order to qualify for the Olympics. So your degree basically helped you reach the Olympics.
Yeah, so the Tokyo Olympics was the first Olympics that had this new qualification scheme where half the athletes were qualifying through the world rankings. And basically it's like your best 5 races, but it's not how fast you run. It's like how fast you run, how good the race is, and where you finish in the race. And it's a very complicated system. And so yeah, I'd set up a spreadsheet to work out which races would be the best races to go to so that I could get the most points to qualify for the Olympics. And yeah, I think I managed to do it with a few points to spare. So it really was quite tight. And yeah, I don't think if I hadn't had my spreadsheet, I probably wouldn't have gone to the right races and probably wouldn't have qualified for Tokyo. So yeah, it definitely worked out that way as well.
That's unbelievable.
Did your coaches know that you were doing this? Were they, I suppose, delighted you did this, especially if you said that you don't think you would have qualified unless you did do it?
Yeah, I think they kind of leave this side of it to me, and they get me into good shape, and then they trust me to find the right races. And it's actually quite funny because we were at the European Team Championships about 2 weeks ago in Poland, and we had a great Irish team out there. And it was really funny because a couple of athletes came up to me and showed me their spreadsheets. So there's a few of the other runners have now kind of taken after me and have built a spreadsheet to help them qualify for the World Championships this year and hopefully Paris next year. So yeah, several Irish athletes are now travelling around the circuit with spreadsheets trying to work out the best way to qualify.
Must have been quite I guess satisfying to input a sub 2 minute 800 meter time into your spreadsheet for the first time quite recently. Like for background on this, Louise, so age 16 you win the 800 meters at the European Youth Olympic Festival. This is in Utrecht. 2 minutes 8.75 seconds, a big time for you at that age. But then for 6 years you failed to go under 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So what was it like then to smash your record, I guess, and to finally go below 2 minutes?
Yeah, so for me, I think I really, really struggled kind of age 17, 18, 19, 20. And I remember it was up in Mary Peters track in Belfast that I finally broke 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And at the time I ran, I think it was 2:04.7. And it pretty much exactly halved the distance between me and the Olympic standard at that time. And that was just an incredible moment to know that, when I died, the 2:08 wasn't going to be written on my gravestone. And then, it was crazy. And I think it was maybe only 2 years later at the same track, the same meet, that I broke 2 minutes for the first time. And so to run 1:59.42 was really great, and it was a national record at the time. But Ciara McGeehan has since broken that, so I need to get my act together and run faster. But it also kind of ruined the fun though, because that time was fast enough to be an automatic qualification for the World Championships, which means I don't need a spreadsheet. I haven't really known what to do. I ran the auto qualification this year as well, earlier in the year, so this is my second spreadsheet-less year. A little less stressful, but maybe not quite as exciting as trying to get it through the ranking points.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah. Spreadsheets to work on. Yeah.
And growing up, Louise, was this always the goal, the path that you wanted to take?
So my dad was an international athlete, and I think I went to my first race when I was maybe 6 days old. I wasn't running, but I was in the car tot at the side of the cross country course. So I kind of grew up looking up at my dad and thinking, this is exactly what I want to do. And so I think, he really inspired me, and he coached me the entire way up until I moved to the UK for the PhD. And I think the entire way I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. I didn't always think it was going to work out. We mentioned earlier that I had some pretty tough years, kind of 17 up to 22. But I really love running. I love training. I love being at the track. And the dream of being an Olympian has been there for a very long time. So
I know the Morton Games are starting, and I know it's an event that you would have loved to have been taking part in. Injury has ruled that out, unfortunately for you, Louise. But I guess when you're looking at that women's 800 metre race now this evening, 8:15 p.m, how do you call it? Like Izzy Boffey, I'm sure, is someone who you've had a lot of competition with over the years, but you have other competitors in there: Georgia Hartigan, Nadia Power, Jenna Brommel, Isel O'Donnell as well. So it's a fairly hotly contested race.
Yeah, so unfortunately I slipped a few days ago, and it's not a kind of an impact injury, so I'm quite happy about that, but it has ruled me out of competing this evening. But the women's 800 does look like a really stacked race. We have quite a few athletes over from America, probably most notably Ali Wilson and Olivia Baker, who both have 1:58 PBs, so they're a second faster than our Irish record. And then there's athletes over from Australia, and we actually have a British athlete, Lindsay Sharp, who's running, who was the 2016 Olympic finalist. So it's a really stacked race, and I think Jenna Brommel and Georgie Hartigan are now the two Irish athletes who are running in it. So I'm really excited to see how they run, but I'll be watching it through closed fingers, hoping that I don't look back on it saying that was the race I needed to be in.
And also in the 100 metre hurdles, Sarah Lavin, she's an Irish athlete that everybody has close eyes on always, and she's in good form at the minute as well.
Yeah, Sarah Lavin is doing absolutely incredibly. Like, this girl has just nailed her season. She raced in Stockholm last week, and she ran 12:73, which was a big PB. It was the automatic standard for the Olympic Games on the second day of the qualification. So we've got a year, 365 days to do it. Her first race, the second day of the qualification, she goes out, she runs the automatic standard. It's just absolutely incredible. So it'll be really exciting to see how she runs. She didn't have the best weather when she raced in Stockholm, so maybe with the right race, the right competition, and the good weather, she can start getting towards that national record that Dervla O'Rourke holds. I think it's 12:65, so a little bit of the way to go. But Sarah's just nailing the competition this year. She's doing so well.
Yeah, she's only 800ths of a second off Dervla O'Rourke's national record of 12.65 as well, so she's really hunting that figure down. In the men's 800 as well, Louise, Mark English, I guess it's a name to look out for here.
Yeah, I mean, Mark he's great. He's an incredibly reliable athlete. I guess most recently he won the bronze medal at the European Championships in Munich last year. So he was racing in the UK last year, or the UK last week, and they actually had such a big race, they split it in two, and they put him into the B race. And he clearly wasn't very happy about that, because he won the entire thing from the B race. So he's in good shape. He has some stiff competition from the British athletes. I guess most notably, Kyle Langford is back, looking for his fourth straight victory in the Morton Games. So I don't know what connection he has with that track, but he's been running really well at this competition. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. And then Guy Learmouth is also over from the UK. And we have several other Irish athletes in that race. John Fitzsimons has been bouncing all over Europe. I think every time I pick up my phone, he's raced a new race. And we also have Harry Purcell, Ronan Sturlis and Mark Milner. So yeah, a great field and very much kind of a battle of the Irish versus the British.
Lots of other Irish athletes to look forward to in the Morton Games as well in Santry. The European Under-23 Championship as well is something, Israel Olatunde, I guess, is a name that we're all very familiar with. He's in action himself.
Yeah, so the European Under-23s, I think, started 2 days ago, possibly. And we actually have 3 athletes who've qualified for finals tonight. So you mentioned Israel, he's in the 100-metre final. Yeah, he's another athlete. He's just building year on year. Last year we saw him run the national record 10:17 in Munich at the European Championships, and he's back in another European final. So it'll be really exciting to see what he can do. And then we also have athletes coming through. So for example, we have Jack Rafferty has qualified for the 400 metres, and his semi yesterday was just incredible. He ran a big PB, 45:89, first time under 46 seconds, and to absolutely blitz his semi. So yeah, we're really excited to see him in the final. And the other person to look out for is Nicola Tuthill. She's a hammer thrower, and she was out with me at the European Team Championships 2 weeks ago, where she threw an under-23 Irish record. And she went out to the heats, the qualification yesterday for the hammer, and the very first throw she just threw the automatic standard straight into the final, no questions about it. So yeah, she's in incredibly good form, and I'm really, really excited to see her throw this evening.
Yeah, it feels like Irish athletics is in a really good place at the minute. Like if we look at Rhasidat Adeleke, you know what she is doing, like it's just unbelievable to see some of her performances.
Yeah, no, Rhasidat is just, yeah, she is another level. I'm amazed every time she runs. I think, wow, there's no way she can run faster, and then she goes and takes another half a second off the national record. Yeah, Rashida's actually opted not to run the European Under-23s this year, but she will be running hopefully the World Championships later in the summer. And yeah, I mean, when we look at Rhasidat, you know, she's one of the best in the world right now. And yeah, when I grow up, I want to be just like Rhasidat.
Louise, brilliant stuff. Hopefully you recover from the injury very soon. And listen, you'll have a job in analysis anyway.
Absolutely.
Punditry when you decide to hang up the spikes. Brilliant stuff, Louise. Thanks a million for your time this morning.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Louise.